Aditya, lots of similarities there between the way the Pakistan army operates and the way Hamas and its leadership operate, controlling it from far. How do you think October 7 is going to change things now?
Well, first, the biggest of the similarities is the use of proxies.
Yes.
But before I come to you, to the 2611 questions that you were asking, one of the lessons and implementations that also happened, for instance, when the IC-814 hijacking happened, immediately we had robust security, not just across Indian airports, but the Nepalese airports as well. That wasn't really seen. People could actually enter the airport and come out very, frequently without checking.
Right.
Similarly, after the 2611 one, we had the implementation of a national agency, NIA, covering the terror attacks and actually, going into the Hawala angle and investigating different aspects of it. Secondly, we had commando forces apart from the NSG deployment all across the country. We had state units, for instance, in Mumbai. We had the Force 1 that come up. I remember, in fact, during the 2611 and after I went for my masters in Bombay at the Xavier's, and Himanshu Roy was the senior police officer who was looking at Force 1, and there was an entire drill which he allowed me to witness of the NSG and the Force 1 at the Xavier's compound. So I think there's a lot of lessons in Pakistan, and Hamas are, test cases of how proxies are used. In that case against Israel and here against India. And, a lot of lessons for India to in fact learn and to be ready because every year, every passing month, terrorists are also changing their strategies. We have discussed threadbare of the use of technology, the use of drones, particularly, and tunnels in Jammu and Kashmir as well to, infiltrate ammunition, terrorists, etc. And, this has been frequently used all across the Punjab border for drugs as well. So I think a lot of lessons for us, and, every passing day with the advent of the artificial intelligence, the technology is really changing. And I'm sure that the Indian agencies are, actually gaining a lot of knowledge from these attacks.
Right. Any unanswered questions in your mind, Colonel Sen, 15 years after 2611?
See, operationally, there is no unanswered question for me. It is crystal clear for me. Philosophically, there is. That what you gained after doing this kind of terrorist attack. What Pakistan achieved? They achieved nothing. What Lashkar-e-Taiba achieved? Nothing. What Hamas is going to achieve? Nothing. Other than killing innocent. And, ruining lives of people. Ultimately, India is much more stronger today. What it was then. We have now, our security is much better. We have much more better equipment as far as special forces are concerned. Training is much better. We've learned a lot. In same way as Israel, it will emerge as stronger. And so, I don't know, other than it fails me. Unanswered question is this. What you achieve after, targeting a city, innocent people, ultimately what is the gain? Zero.
Right. In fact, one of the unanswered questions is why India never hit back at Pakistan militarily after 2611. My colleague Mohammad Wajiullah spoke with the then National Security Advisor M.K. Narayanan, asking him these questions. Let's listen.
There have been periodic attempts, because the period between, I would say, 2002 till about 2010, there are a whole lot of attacks. The Pakistanis had set up an organization called the Indian Mujahideen, and we were accustomed to the Pakistan acting, or the Indian Mujahideen acting as a proxy for Pakistan, carrying out various attacks. And we had the 2006, they were attacks on the trains in Bombay and whatnot. There was some information that was shared by the Americans, although that there might be some kind of a problem. But because David Hadley was a double agent, the Americans did not want him to be fully exposed. So all that he probably shared with the Americans was not shared with us in terms of intelligence. If we had that, I'm sure that we would have been able to deal with the situation far better. So, yes, the scale of the attack surprised us. I would even say shocked us. The Hadley confession came much after the Americans had milked him of everything that he had to do. But that was only confirmation of what we had. It took us a little time. I mean, there's intelligence is anticipation followed by investigation. So the investigation confirmed what we had already anticipated as far as this was concerned. LET was the front end of the attack, and the Pakistan. After all, they were trained by the Pakistani Navy. The ships set out from a harbour in Pakistan and whatnot. So Pakistan's hand was very clear. There were names that were being mentioned, whom we obviously identified as being closely associated with the Pakistan group. Now, they would all go under the umbrella of the LET or what it is. But the fact of the matter is, there was no doubt at all that much of this was being masterminded by at least one segment of the Pakistan armed forces. Starting from the Indian Mujahideen, Pakistan had been fully establishing the linkages with the LET and other elements. It was a Pakistan operation. The LET was the front end. Now, where each of the operatives were they all from the LET or from the Pakistan Army is difficult to establish at this point in time. But it was clearly an operation masterminded by Pakistan and using the capacity or capability of the LET. Pakistan is now covering itself by saying that it was a rogue operation and whatnot. From David Hadley's confession, it's obvious that he knew that it was a planned operation and it was not run by a few rogues, etc. So there's nothing more to be said on that.
Colonel Sen, do you agree with what the then NSA said, that he was absolutely right, the government of the day was absolutely right in not striking at Pakistan the way we did in Balakot?
See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because if you are strong, no one will attack you. If you are weak, everybody will try to attack you. It is all over the world, even from animal world to human nature or human civilization or geopolitics, whatever you see. If you are a stronger nation, nobody will dare to attack you because your response will be so massive and such a huge impact it will put on the other nation that they will not dare to attack. So those are proxies also.
Right.
You know, this proxies, using proxies, the time has gone now because everybody knows through proxies only you will attack.
Right.
So I disagree with that, and I feel that any time such kind of terror attack takes place, our response should be very, very strong, and then only people will not try to, try to take, never try to do another similar thing for generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, Vaji also spoke with the then Air Force Air Chief Marshal Fali Major to ask him whether the Air Force was actually prepared to attack terror training camps in Pakistan. Let's listen in.
We had put options for which we were ready. And the options I will not discuss in public, but the options were that if required, we were ready to strike any particular place which bred these kind of terrorists, where they came from, and to give them an equal lesson that, listen, don't repeat this with us, we will get you. And that is what every armed force prepares for, and gives the government the options that they can exercise if asked to do so. Whether those options are accepted by the government, not accepted, is totally the prerogative of the political leadership and not the armed forces. In my reckoning, yes. And mind you, the Balakot strike was deep in the heartland of Pakistan, not in the line of control area. Okay. And that is why we saw some kind of a retaliation from them. But I may be wrong in my assessment that during 26/11, if we had had targets to strike in the LC area, there would have been no retaliation. This operation was wonderfully planned. It was obvious. It was obvious that these guys came in boats, got in, walked around on railway stations, in hotels like the Taj Mahal, the Taj in Bombay, and that's what it is. Unless and until this is planned meticulously and well, they cannot undertake an operation like this. And for them to have achieved this, obviously it is state-sponsored. There is no doubt, because no four terrorists can get together and plan an operation of this magnitude. You can see the difference with the many actions the present political leadership has taken. Balakot, for example. The other, cross-border surgical strikes by our land forces. I mean, there are examples which everyone can see that it has happened now. So, as I said, it all depends on the political will. What their assessment is, how well they are prepared to face the situation if you undertake that. It all depends on the political leadership of the day.
Aditya, Air Force Chief, then Air Force Chief Major, saying that they were fully prepared. They had options ready to strike at Pakistani camps, but they were not given the go-ahead. You think that if the Air Force had struck after 26/11, we would not have seen the kind of terror attacks that we saw in Uri and Pathankot and in Dinanagar?
Absolutely, no doubts in my mind. I mean, two events in Indian history in the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades. One has been the failure of the negotiations in the IC-814 hijacking, in which Masood Azhar was released, and that led to the formation of Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the most brutal terror attacks in India, apart from 26/11, if we leave alone 26/11, has been the Jaish-e-Mohammed. The Parliament attack, the Pulwama attack, the Pathankot attack has been from Jaish-e-Mohammed. So I think it's logic. It's not a political calculation that I'm talking about. It's a logical step that if your sovereignty has been questioned, if your country has been attacked by 10 gunmen, then logic says that you need to respond militarily. And there were options. And I will tell you that one option was to hit the Lashkar-e-Toiba headquarters in Pakistan. There was another option of eliminating Hafiz Saeed and Zakirur Rahman Lakhvi in Pakistan. Both these options were discussed in detail. There was option of airstrikes as well. I think the Indian Air Force, the Indian Army, and as well as the intelligence agencies were very much prepared, had laid down on the table, and the former NSA Shiv Shankar Menon also says this in his book, that we had options, but the political class at that time in power decided not to go ahead. So I think these two events, the IC-814 hijacking and the aftermath, and the 26/11 and the aftermath, led to India's weakening in counter-terrorism operations. And I think if we had set a precedent with a strong message, it would have led to peace. And the bombings that happened, all across the country, from Rajasthan to Uttar Pradesh to New Delhi, would haven't happened really.
Colonel Sen, you think India is safer, more secure now, 5 years after Balakot, when the Air Force was used for the first time to bomb a terror training camp?
Yeah, sure. I am very much sure that India is much, much more safer. And I don't perceive any such kind of attack through proxies.
So the whole thing of proxy, I was talking to Tara Karta, in fact, and she said, look, the era of proxies is over. Everyone knows that they are all state actors.
So state actors are actually actors. So, So I don't see that. But what I feel is the change, because there is going to be a shift in not using proxies. Now there will be more effort towards, destabilizing country from within. Homegrown terrorists.
Yes.
The local terrorists.
Right.
So the aim will be to bring them up.
Radicalize. Homegrown.
Radicalization, no, I don't believe in radicalization, but to bring them up as a terrorist, as an attacker, so that there will be no telltale, no Saeed or no Hafiz Mir or no Hafiz Saeed, and no, the trail will not lead to Pakistan.
Right.
If it is, local. So that might be an option. They might try that, and we should be more cautious about this aspect.
We should be more cautious about that aspect. And I've been reading, Colonel Sen, this book by your regiment mate, Prabal Das Gupta, Camouflage.
Yeah.
You can read this book. It's out on stands now by Juggernaut. It talks of, one of the stories is Colonel Sandeep Sen at 2611, an operation that will always remain with us for what we should not have done, especially the part of not striking Pakistan. Lessons learnt.
News9 Plus. Download now.